Ocean's Pit, little show about big things. Hope you guys are having a great day today, folks. It is Monday, April 8th. What a way to start. It's also the eclipse today. Woo! Hope you all went outside and got your sunglasses and ready to roll. We got a great show lined up for you guys, folks. Check the website, TonyOceanMusic.com, and give us a call at 847-769-8609. Excuse me, 847-769-8609 to book a show. We got a great show for you guys today. My good buddy Trevor Blanchard is with us, folks. You gotta love wrestling, and this is the show to watch, man. We're going to talk about a lot of good things, but before that, folks, every show is dedicated to the first responders. Most is dedicated to people like you who take the time and watch the show, whether you're watching it today or during your lunch hour. And there's 5 different ways. We're live, 5 different social media networks, folks. We're live on the Tony Ocean Show Facebook page. We're on the Mo Carraro Facebook page. We're on LinkedIn. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitter. Now it's called X. And, of course, we're also on the Ocean's Pit Facebook page. No matter how you're watching it, it's showtime. So let's go. That's right. Thank you, my good buddy Dino Manzella from Seventh Heaven on an intro, guys. Hey, Ocean's Pit, little show about big things. We have a great show lined up for you. Let's get right to our sponsors. Ace Hardware. Ace is the place. Buy local. Norwich, Des Plaines, Evergreen Park, Warrenville, Mesa, Arizona. Spring is here, folks. So why don't you take advantage of the outdoor furniture, unique lawn and garden decor, as well as flowers, vegetables, herbs, and plants. And don't forget to tune up that lawnmower, folks. $105 plus parts. They are your neighborhood powerhouse. And take advantage of the auto key programming at all their stores. They program and card cut keys up to 50% less than the dealership. Visit their helpful hub to speak to a certified team member. That's Ace Hardware. Ace is the place. Buy local, shop local. Ace has been helping neighbors before they were neighborhoods. Don't forget, tomorrow is Twisted Tuesday with my co-host Carol Brandolino. 2 for Tuesday, Twisted Tuesday. It's a great day, folks, on the 8th of April. If you love wrestling, you better watch the show, folks, because we're going to talk about old school wrestling. We're going to talk about WrestleMania 40, the greatest of all time, supposedly. Anyway, but we're going to have a lot of fun. Now, just let's get back to a couple things real fast. I want to thank everybody that showed up at the speak at our great Chicago Prime Steakhouse on Friday night. Professor Darrell, you did an incredible job, as always. And again, our good friends, want to thank Saturday Night Villaggio was a big, big success, and beautiful Roselle. I want to thank the main event band, Tony Toto, Danny Raimondi, everybody that showed up on Saturday. It was a great event. And don't forget, Sunday was great too, because I sat home and watched both days. So on Peacock, I watched Saturday first. Me and my son Joey watched it. And then we watched the other part, of course, at 6 o'clock whenever the Sunday one, the 2-parter. But all my kids and my family, the girls, were at Nina's baby shower, and it was great success over there, folks. Again, congratulations, Nina and Eric. We're going to be grandparents in May, so we're so excited about that. And it was very good. Moretti's a la carte doing an incredible job. So thank you, Jim Early, and everybody there for that. Also, we got the eclipse coming, folks. Yeah, it's going to be interesting if you're into that stuff. We're going to tell you the times. We're going to tell you their stuff. But let's get another sponsor on the way before we bring up our good buddy, our good friend Trevor. Now, guys, if your companies are out there looking for to get on newspapers, magazines, radio, TV, get your name out there, there's only one way to go with that. And that's called public relations. That's called get yourself a publicist. That's what I have. You need them. Call my buddy Bernie DeMayo at 312-217-5658. That's BernieDeMayo.com. He's worked with the Bulls. He's worked with the White Sox. He works with everybody, folks. Bernie DeMayo Partners, one of the best publicists, in my opinion, in the city of Chicago. Also, if you're looking to sell and buying a house, well, there's only one way to do that, folks, and that's Mary Grievous. That's right, our good friend Mary Grievous, buying or selling a home in the Chicagoland area, the perfect real estate professional. Whether you're putting your home on the market or looking for your dream home, give her a call today. That's Mary Grievous, available to assist buyers, sellers, for sale by owners, expired listings, Berkshire Hathaway, Stark Real Estate. That's Mary Grievous, StarkRE.com, or give her a call at 630-688-1725. That's my good friend Mary Grievous, folks. You got to love it. Also, folks, she's in charge of the Chicago Music Cruise 2025. And you know that we just did a big successful one in January. We're going to do it again March 22nd to March 30th, folks, 2025. It's going to be the Chicago Music Cruise. I'm excited again to be with my good buddy, Seventh Heaven. Of course, we're going to have Seventh Heaven, our band, Tony Ocean, the main event band. We're going to have Mojo's Jukebox, my other band, and Hillbilly Rockstars. We're going to start off in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're going to leave Florida. We're going to Coco Key, Bahamas. Then we're going to Aruba, and then we're going to Carousel. NTD Vacation, Chicago Music Cruise.com. Tell them Tony O sent you. We have a great Monday today, and I'm so excited to see people. Patrice, former Chicago Honey Bear, is in the house. How you doing, Kathy, from Santa Barbara? 1 hour and 22 minutes away. There you go, Albert, from the Ron Onesti organization. Guys, Kathy, Roseanne, Richard, how you doing? Marty Malarkey, everybody. It's a great day today here on Monday, the 8th of April. And we love wrestling. I hope you do. And my guest who's sitting to come on very, very shortly, he's sitting right there, actually, Trevor Blanchard from Royalty. It's one of the relations with the great Tully Blanchard. Woo! One of the greatest teams of all time, the Four Horsemen. You can't believe I'm just crazy about the Horsemen. Nobody will ever beat the Horsemen to me, and nobody would ever been better than the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. And we will definitely talk about that good stuff, folks. I am so excited. All right, eclipse today. It's going to start about 12:15, supposedly. 2 o'clock is going to hit the Schaumburg, Elk Grove area. Everywhere we went, glasses sold out. Eclipse glasses sold out. Hey, God bless. If it's something you're into, enjoy. We got a busy week coming up. Wednesday, we'll be at Bugsy's in McHenry with Mojo's Jukebox. I'm excited about that. A little rock and roll school, 7 o'clock. Thursday, we'll be at Tavern on the Point in Edison Park. Friday, Chicago Prime Steakhouse. And Saturday's a private affair at the Hyatt in beautiful Rosemont, Illinois. I am in a good mood, folks, and I hope you guys are too. Why don't we bring Trevor on now? It's 12:08. Let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, my good buddy, he's been around. He's done a lot of stuff in the business. And, that's what I mean. And a lot of people, I've took shit for years from people telling me about wrestling. Oh, it's not real. It's not this. Okay. Now we know that it is real. I'm not talking about, if you guys are these people, men and women who wrestle and do this stuff, it's like a soap opera. Correct. There is a beginning, there's an end. We understand that part. But the wear and tear and the actual athletics that these guys and women do are unstoppable. And they do an incredible job. Jerry Jams, how you doing? Double T, how you guys doing? So Trevor, he's here live from sunny Florida. Trevor, what part of Florida you at, pal?
Sarasota,
home of the Nature Boy. No, home of Randy
Macho Man.
Macho
Ooh, Randy,
yeah.
Randy and Lanny live down here, and I actually saw Lanny like 3 months prior to him moving down to Ecuador.
Well, you know what? And he was the poet. I never liked this character. He was there only because of the Macho Man. Almost like Brutus Beefcake was only there because of Hulk Hogan.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. But you got to love. I know they were originally from Downers Grove, Illinois.
Yes.
I guess, both of the
yes.
People. Ryan Lewis, how you doing? But Richard Hamlin, I know he's a big wrestling fan. So, Trevor, you're in Florida. Where were you born, buddy?
Northwest side of Chicago, Albany Park is where I grew up. Went to Bateman, went to Roosevelt High School, lived there. and eventually I got married and lived a couple different spots in the city. Harwood Heights, had a house in Bolingbrook,
Okay.
got divorced, and then lived out in the Naperville, Lisle, excuse me,
Yeah.
Naperville, Lisle area for a number of years. And then last I lived was by 63rd and Narragansett by Midway. My regular full-time job now is with Southwest Airlines, and then I was fortunate enough to get transferred down here almost a year ago.
Since you've been there.
To
Very cool.
Sarasota. And
Richard Hamlin made a good point here. I thought Lonnie was in the business before Randy. Okay, so good point there. I did not know that, Richard.
Mhm.
Richard knows his stuff too. So, yeah, Hulk Hogan is in Tampa, Florida. I think that's
yeah,
what
he's got a rest. He's got a. He's actually in Clearwater. He's got a restaurant, Hogan's Hangout, which I've actually been to. Usually Monday nights they do karaoke, and he's usually there.
He's over there on Monday nights. You have a big family, Trevor?
Yeah, some. I mean, one of the reasons why I put in a transfer to come down here to Florida was because my mom and dad are gone, my brother is gone, my grandparents are gone. I've got some aunts, bunch of cousins up in the Chicago area and south of Kankakee, but and both my boys are still there, but nothing was holding me back. I got 2 ex-wives. Nothing was holding me in Chicago. So
Okay.
I'd rather look at white sand than white snow.
There you go. There you go. Very cool. Well, you got to love it. Trevor, you got an interesting history, man. I know your kids are into it. You've been in love wrestling your whole life. You did some stuff with ECW, WCW, of course, WWF, WWE, of course, Windy City. You started with our good friend, the late, great Mr. Bill. Nobody better than Bill Romanette. He was an incredible guy, great friend. It was a very big loss when we lost Mr. Bill. But Windy City was big here in Chicago. And when you decided to do this, Trevor, I mean, your parents had to go, your family at the time going, oh, what are you, nuts?
My mom was the only thing that, and I wouldn't even say negative, it was just a suggestion,
Yeah.
was that if I got hurt, don't look for a lot of sympathy. And, fortunately, the training that I got from Sam DeCero, who is the owner of Windy City when I started back in 1990. Mike Gratchner was his right-hand man. The guy, Sonny Rogers, was one of my trainers.
Sonny, I used to see Sonny all the time at Stay Out, the good old days of Stay Out.
Stay Out, and he worked with the AWA up in Minneapolis as an extra, along with another guy from the Chicago area, Nacho Barrera. Tom Rocky Stone up in Milwaukee. He did a lot of TV with Vern up in Minnesota. I got training from those guys, and it was great. I mean, I never really sustained any injuries, and this month marks 34 years in the business, and I've never had one knee surgery.
Well, you know what? That's very, very cool.
It's very rare.
Trevor, why don't we tell us real quick, what is the relation with the great Tully Blanchard?
Joe Blanchard and my dad relation was through a marriage.
Okay.
It was through a marriage.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something.
I reached out to Tully. After I had started training, and I was kind of going through names. I asked Tully if it was okay if I used the Blanchard name, and he was like, yeah. And then, I was kind of going through different names. Tony, that didn't sound right. No offense to you.
No, right, exactly.
Tommy Blanchard, no. And so if you remember a guy, I'm sure you do, by the name of Kevin Matthews.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so Kevin always talked about his kids, T and Trevor.
Okay.
So I was like, man, I don't know very many Trevors. So then I put Trevor with Blanchard, and it worked.
And it worked out cool. And the name really does help when certain wrestlers, of course, all these people don't have their real names. Some do.
Right.
Some don't, like Randy Orton, of course, that's his real name.
Harley Race uses his real name. Yep.
Cody, Dustin, of course, because of the great Dusty Rhodes, of course. So let's get real fast. First of all, like like I said about wrestling, folks. Now, there's either people that you love it or you hate it. And that's almost the same thing with a lot of stuff. Right now, I can compare it to either a Taylor Swift. Either you like her or you hate her. But that's what wrestling is. But the only thing you gotta understand about wrestling, folks, if it's to me, I call it like a soap opera. If you're into All My Children and you're into General Hospital, who've been on television for 50, 100 years and still have great people that watch it, these wrestling fans are really just so much into the love of wrestling. Some are a little over the top, but then there's
Mhm.
some that just really do enjoy it, just like me. I do. I know Richard enjoys it. I know my buddy Jim Irwin enjoys it, a very good friend of mine with TNT, the big ACDC tribute band. And there's a lot of guys out there that really do love and enjoying it. And it's changed so much. And I look, I'm still a big AEW. I watch that. A lot of people don't like it, but I like it. But let's just recap real fast, briefly on this past weekend, WrestleMania 40. Supposedly, according to Triple H, Paul Levesque, said it was the greatest of all time. Yes, Roman Reigns. Come on, the tribal chief, the bloodline. That was
Mhm.
probably the closest that we're ever going to get, ever got to being compared to something like a Four Horsemen. Because everything they did, or the NWO, but they got so big. I mean, the four.
Honestly, no comparison. No
Yeah,
comparison. You
no,
look at what the Horsemen did to Dusty and everybody that was like gunning for Flair's
yeah,
title,
yeah.
and they would put a kibosh on it. But the end result was you went there to see the Horsemen get their ass kicked, and that a lot of times that's what happened,
That's what
whether it be
happened.
by the Road Warriors or whoever.
Whoever be it, no,
Not so much with the Bloodline. And like you said, things have changed,
yeah,
and to go back to when you first started talking about this, pro wrestling is the purest form, purest form of ad lib entertainment. Because when we get in there, we got one take. It's not like if we screw up, we can go back. At times you can,
hmm
but it's just like baseball. You get one chance to hit the home run to win the game. You either make it or you don't.
yeah. Well,
Um,
it's crazy. And a lot of the scripts that they have, a lot of stuff they ad lib themselves. Sports entertainment. I know it was really big back in the time when Vince McMahon had to change the name to WWE Entertainment instead of WWF. They got in trouble with
World
supposedly.
Wildlife Foundation.
Yeah, with the foundation, I know they got in trouble for that. But then also when they had to come out and actually say that it is entertainment now, sports entertainment. And you know what? To me, I enjoyed it. So when they came out with it, it didn't make a difference to me. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, you have to look at the top. I mean, you still say the name Hulk Hogan now, everybody knows it, whether you're a wrestler or not. I wasn't a big Hulk Hogan fan, never was. But when he became Hollywood Hogan, then he was the guy that I liked. But what Hulk Hogan did, because me and my dad we didn't watch too much together. Me and my dad weren't that close because he'd always work nights, and I left the bakery, and I'd be trying to go into the music business. He never liked that, blah 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 blah. But when we watched wrestling together, and we'd make bets to see who would win each match, and we'd sit around and watch WrestleMania and all these different the different shows that were on. He always took the good guys, I always took the bad guys, the heels, as I called them, or the baby faces, as it was. So what was your take on the Cody Rhodes Roman match, from what you heard?
Um, you know, I had my thoughts on how it was going to go down. Obviously, I knew that, and this is an insider from WWE. This was just my thought on the whole thing. Saturday night, I figured the Bloodline would win
Yeah,
to make it more difficult for Cody to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish.
finish the story,
My,
as they say.
yeah, my thought was, and if you go back weeks ago, that when The Rock had gone out and aligned himself with Bloodline, all the guys went like this, except for The Rock went like that. So what I was thinking was that Rock was actually going to turn yesterday to allow Cody to win.
I thought so too. And then we never found out, if you watched it, what he whispered to Cody Rhodes live on SmackDown, I think it was. He whispered. They
Yeah.
never said exactly what he said. I was thinking, don't worry, I got your back. But we never
Right.
found out what was
Unless that was, I'm thinking maybe he told him, meet me outside
said. Okay.
before the end of the show.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So he
And
can
then,
beat him
and
up
then
with the
Cody
belt.
got beat up.
Yeah. With the Mama Rhodes belt.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Rock coming back. Me and my son Joey, we were talking about when is Rock coming? Who's going to be able to beat Roman Reigns? Nobody has ever beat. No one's went as long as Roman has as world champion. And even if Rock was to come and beat him, he wouldn't be able to continue it because he's going to go back to Hollywood. So we
Right.
knew that wasn't going to last. And we knew it. It almost looked, and me and my son Joey watched it, and when he got pinned, Roman, he had a smile on his face.
Yeah,
I think
I
he
saw
was
that.
happy that you see that?
Yep.
Trevor, I thought he was probably going to say, thank God this is over and I can go, I mean,
Yeah.
come on. It was getting
Well,
to
I
the
mean,
point.
he's still dealing, even though it's in remission, he's still having to take medication for the leukemia that he was
Sure.
diagnosed with a number
Right.
of years ago.
Right.
I didn't like the fact that they were comparing his days as champion along with Hogan, along with Bruno, along with Backlund,
Yeah.
because he had only had 60 title defenses. Whereas if you look back on how many days Hogan and all these other guys, Bruno and Backlund had the belt, they defended it hundreds of times.
It's almost like when you see Seth Rollins went out there, he was always defending his title.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you know what? Yeah, you make a lot of sense. I think it was his 30. I said it. I think he only defended his title 31 times since his reign. I mean, that's really not a lot. Some compared, and let's go back to when I remember first watching wrestling. Of course, we're talking about the Moose Cholak and Bob Luce and the Valiant brothers and Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher. Pepper Gomez when the cast iron chest where they rolled a Volkswagen over his chest. Remember that? Yep. I mean, compared to then, Moose and Bob Luce. I mean, compared to then, Trevor. Oh my God! Whoever thought the years would come to what it is today? Yeah,
I mean, my dad took me to the International Amphitheater, 43rd and Halstead, which is obviously no longer there. I don't remember the undercard. I actually do have the sheet from the insert. If you remember the poster board that they would have, pictures of the guys' faces. I don't remember the undercard, but the main event was Dick the Bruiser versus Bruiser Brody in a Texas death match. And that's all and the other thing is I remember there was no music back then.
Yeah.
So the Andy Frain security guys, the guys in the white shirts, would walk the guys through the aisle to the ring, through the crowd to the ring. And it was a singles. There was 4 security guards. If it was a tag match, there was 6 or 8. It depended upon if Bobby Heenan was there, because Bobby needed 4 guys for himself alone.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Everybody wanted to kill Bobby.
And everybody wanted to hear Bobby, and that's we'll touch a little bit on that. You're watching Ocean's Pit, little show about big things. Trevor Blanchard, folks, always in the wrestling family. Worked with a lot of great guys and get some great pictures of you, Rey Mysterio, you and Hogan, CM Punk, Flair, Haku, which I think has got to be the meanest, toughest probably wrestler in real life, the great Haku. I mean, you can't. Yeah. This guy would. He's one tough motherfucker.
He pulled a guy's eyeball out at a bar up in the Northeast somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can't.
He's legit. And he can still go. I saw him a few months ago at a Legends luncheon in Tampa that Brian Blair organizes. B. Brian Blair
from the Killer Bees, former Killer Bees, right?
Yeah, and he's still in good shape. Obviously he's a little older and got the gray in the hair, but
yeah.
I'm just glad I'm on his good side.
Well, you'll put it this way. I'm happy for Cody Rhodes. I mean, he's such an emotional guy, from what he'd been through, and then he started the AEW thing with the Young Guns, and he didn't win last year. I don't think he's got. I think ratings are going to drop drastically now that Roman is gone in the bloodline. Well, what do you think on that?
Um, I don't know. Um, you drag the or you pull the audience in on the chase. Now that the chase is over, and he and Cody or whoever it is at the top. Now it's who's going to knock him off of that mountain.
And the problem is, look at the roster you have. There is nobody that's even worth. I mean, Drew McIntyre is lost unless they can change his character. He's just too wishy-washy. Seth, forget it. Who's left? Who can come and take him away?
There's a guy that they brought up, Bron Breakker, who is Rick Steiner's son.
Yeah.
Maybe
LA
they'll
Knight.
insert him.
LA Knight doesn't have it for me. I mean, he's just he tries to be a little bit of The Rock, and he stole a little bit from Steve Austin. He just took both of those characters and put them together. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't. I like Priest. I think Priest is good. I like his character. The Judgment Day I thought was very cool. But if you think about that, I don't know. I'm happy for Bailey. There's a girl that started from as a fan, and her whole story. Great. I'm so happy for her.
Honestly, we're all fans before we get into it. I mean, me and Jimmy Blaze and who owns POW Entertainment, and we're all fans. And we years ago, it was very difficult to get into the business, and you were tested to see if you were tough enough, and you were taught how to run the ropes, and they run you until you puke. Thankfully, I never wound up getting sick and had to throw up either into the bathroom or in a garbage can when I was doing the drills. But it takes a special individual to do what we do and put your body through what we put, because basically it's a car accident every time we get slammed or we get elbowed to the mat. People think, oh, there's a spring under there. No, it's metal, it's plywood or long beams about that wide, and there's some padding, but it doesn't give, it's not like a bed. And then there's the cameras.
Right. I mean, there's microphones to make it sound louder. We know the special effects of it. That's just like when you go see a rock concert. We know all that. I mean, but still, even when Macho used to go off those ropes and come down with that elbow, I mean, it's not an easy thing. You get hurt. There are people who do get hurt. It's not and man, how many days these guys and girls are on the road from one city to another. And besides the TV, if you get on the TV, forget it. People might just see the guys on television. All the other stuff that they're doing that sometimes they're even not on television, everything they do. I mean, it's a long haul.
You have to learn how to live life on the road, just like a musician. I mean, and it gets, it gets. It's a cycle that doesn't stop until you come off the road, and then you don't want to talk to anybody. You just want to be able to be left alone and sleep and just chill in front of the TV. There was times when, excuse me, when I would do TV with WCW. Saturday night they'd be in Peoria, Illinois, and I'd be there. Sunday night they'd be maybe out at the Quad Cities. And then Monday, we're at the United Center. Tuesday, we're at Thunder up in Milwaukee. And then Wednesday, we're in Madison, Wisconsin for the Saturday night taping.
Yeah.
I lived close enough to where I was actually able to go home and didn't have to spend money on a hotel.
Yeah.
I was able to go home and then go back. But, you're going through a loop, and let's say you live in California, you got to bring enough clothes or wash them at the hotel. You got to have time to work, get your workout in. You can't eat 100% clean when you're on the road.
No,
It just
absolutely. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
a lot of people that watch wrestling really don't realize what they go through to be able to do what they do so for your entertainment. And that's just not talking about the in-ring stuff. It's everything outside of that. And then, so normally TV starts at like 12, 1 o'clock on a Monday night. Okay. They
Yeah.
got to be there at 12 o'clock. And then they've got to cut all these promos, prior to, going live. And then, if you're wrestling, then you got to, it just the whole, the whole weekend, obviously Saturday, Sunday, and now today in Philadelphia, or tonight, they've been there since Tuesday after they
Right.
left Monday
Right.
night last week.
Right.
They all flew to Philadelphia. So they've been on the road for almost 2 weeks. Now, I think maybe after tonight, the Raw crew might be going overseas for the after WrestleMania tour.
And then they do that with their. See, that's a lot of people think they just on TV. Excuse me. Both of us have the cough today. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, yeah, so people don't realize all that stuff, and there's so much work into it. And like I said, you either like it or you don't. And then let's go back when Extreme, ECW. When Paul Heyman started with a little low budget thing, it really changed wrestling, and so many great guys came out of that. Rob Van Dam, of course, and Tommy Dreamer.
Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
Spike Dudley.
Yeah, you gotta love them, Bubba. And it was great for what they did. And of course, I know they went bankrupt and everything like that. But then of course, even what was the one? Not NWA. What was the other one afterwards? Oh, TNA. TNA, I thought was great too.
Impact.
I thought they were great too when they had the Mafia. Remember with Sting and everybody. It was just fantastic. You're watching Ocean's Pit, little show about big things. Trevor Blanchard talking wrestling, folks. Wrestling. When they have to came out, and of course it is entertainment, as we all do and love. There's so many great ones there. Richard made a great comment too. Not to mention, besides the wear and tear, and I don't know how many wrestlers have to go with the alcohol addictions, the drug addictions, and sometimes they don't start off, and most of the time, I'd have to say 99% of the time, you're taking these drugs because of injuries. And then, of course, when some people get a little bit more into it, there's so many people. You can tell the stories. If you're really into wrestling, watch Dark Side of the Ring. I love watching the stories of all the wrestlers and everything they've been through, the highs and lows, how you made all that money and lost everything. It's sad. And then if you look at the Benoit, an incredible, one of the best wrestlers, I thought. He was also a great horseman. And of course, the drugs and everything that did it to his mind, ended up killing his family and stuff like that. It was just a horrible story. And then you have to wonder about, look at if it's safe, look at Owen Hart.
Yeah.
A horrible story with Owen Hart. That's just tragic. And then you never know. Look at the Minnesota ripoff thing, whatever you called it, with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
The Montreal screw job.
Yeah, the screw job. That was not planned. Do you think it was planned? Do you think they really knew and Bret just went along with it? Or
no, Bret had no idea. Because the thing was that what Vince was worried about was everybody knew that he was going to WCW, and Vince was worried that Bret was going to take the title much like Alundra Blaze did and throw the title in the garbage.
Correct.
And Vince didn't want to have that embarrassment happen again.
Yeah, but I don't think. But and I don't know. I met Bret a couple of times, had a few cocktails and stay out together, and we talked a little bit. The class that he was, I don't think he would have thrown that belt into the garbage can like Blaze did.
Well, and the thing is, one of the things about Bret was that he was just, in his mind, as a Canadian athlete, he didn't want to drop it to Shawn up in Montreal.
It was because he was Canada, right? Drop it somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, but Vince didn't want to do that, and Vince covered his butt to save face, and obviously that what was done was in my eyes wrong. Business is business. whether you're in your home country, your home state, your home city. I mean, you look at WCW and how many times they made Flair look bad in Charlotte, North Carolina, his hometown.
His hometown.
It's business. It's
Yeah.
business. It doesn't mean anything. Don't take it personally.
Yeah.
But Brett was taking it personally, I think.
Right. And, you know, but he was also, to me, one of my greatest wrestlers. I mean, in the ring wrestling style, I thought he was fantastic what he did. You're watching Ocean Spit, Little Show About Big Things. My good buddy Trevor Blanchard talking wrestling. I'm going to throw a couple guys at you. Let me just say real fast. It's amazing also the how women's wrestling has just skyrocketed compared if you go back 20 years ago. There wasn't too many. You know, China was big and Medusa and all that. You know, what Charlotte did, of course, incredible wrestler. Even though she has the Flair name, she still had to prove herself. Richard Hamlin says Bret Hart was pound for pound one of the greatest. Excuse me. Yeah, wrestler in history. Richard, you're absolutely right about Bret Hart. Let's talk real briefly about how important or not important the managers were to the wrestlers. Let's throw some names out there. Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, Jim Cornette. Let's talk about two of the greatest of all time to me, Bobby the Brain Heenan. You can't beat him. But the wise man, Paul Heyman, is fantastic as well. How important are the managers to the characters?
A lot back in the day when guys were given 2 to 3 minutes to talk about their opponent, some of the guys weren't real comfortable. Some of the guys weren't real good at putting themselves over against their opponent. Yeah. So that's why Bobby was put with Bobby Duncum and Ken Patera. Bobby Duncum very rarely said much. Right. Ken Patera was able to, he talked.
Yeah, he was good.
Nick Bockwinkel was a great talker. Yeah, but if you go into when Bobby went from AWA to WWF, he had Hercules Hernandez. Yeah. He had Rick Rude. Now, Rick Rude was able to talk.
Hernandez didn't talk too much. Yeah, King Kong Bundy didn't talk too much.
Right. So that's why Bobby was put with them, was to put them over verbally, and then they were able to put themselves over in ring with their work.
I mean, look at Brock Lesnar. Yep. I mean, come on, Heyman was his mouthpiece. He was great. All Brock had to do was stand there with the championship.
Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. Mr. Fuji, I'm really good friends with Demolition, Axe, and Smash, and they told me a bunch of stories about Fuji, and you know they really didn't need him because both of those guys were able to talk, but it worked. Fuji was a big ribber, and there is times I've heard stories that he would have a barbecue, and the boys were actually eating dog as opposed to like burgers or whatever. Yeah, he was very ruthless on his ribs.
Yeah,
Mr. Fuji was.
Yeah, and then you had Slick, you had Captain Lou Albano. Okay, you know Albano didn't do much for me. I really don't care for the guy. But when you because I'm only looking at the pedestal, I'm looking at the captain, I'm looking at the leader, I'm looking at the king, Bobby Heenan. I'm sorry. I mean, Cornette, I thought was really good too. I love this podcast. I listen to all the time. Cornette was great too. Jimmy Mount of South, great for what he did. You know, with the Dream Team and everybody he had. Did Hogan need him? Probably not. Probably not. You know.
No.
Trevor, what was your take with Kevin Nash and Razor Ramon, of course?
Scott
Hall, when they made that move and they went to Nitro with Bischoff, and wow, it was incredible. And I never thought that third guy was going to be Hulk Hogan.
It was when when that whole thing started, it was genius because nobody saw it coming, and everybody thought with them coming through, you know, down the stairs through the crowd, thinking, again, they're outsiders. They're from the other company. What are they doing here?
Yeah.
Nobody knew until after a few months in that they had already signed with WCW, that Bischoff put them under contract.
Yeah.
And Hogan talked about the whole him turning, they had talked about him, doing it. He didn't want to, but it got to a point where he realized the whole Hulkamania thing had
The prayers and your
run its
vitamins
course.
was getting old. It was getting old.
It ran its course, and I guess according to some of his interviews, it wasn't known until very last minute when he walked out that was the third guy. They initially wanted to have it be Sting,
Yeah.
but I don't think that would have gone over as well as it did with Hogan, because
And,
that
and it,
gave
and
that
it turned,
Brady that
yeah.
gave Hogan a new life
Oh yeah.
for a number of years.
It kept his name going, and he was
Yep.
great. I think he was much better heel than he was a babyface, in my opinion. Because remember, even when he first started, he was a heel.
Right.
Before they turned him into the whatever it was.
Yeah.
But it was the greatest. It was one, like Richard said, it was one of the great. We were like, oh my God, it was so incredible when that happened, and I'm sure. And what was your thought of briefly, a little short? James Russo, I thought was a great. I thought he did a good job. If I've got the right name, Vince Russo. I thought he was good, and I loved Bischoff. And even though Bischoff gets a lot of slack, what did you think about Bischoff?
I had met Bischoff numerous times at TV, but it was just, hey, how you doing? Good to see you, type of thing. We never sat and had coffee, or we never sat in catering or anything like that. Vince Russo, I met a couple times. He has a different vision on the business. As you've heard on Cornette's podcast, he's all about the women and the sex part of it.
Yeah. Which did help if you think about
to
it.
A degree, to a degree. Right.
Yeah.
But then he was the one who wound up putting the title on David Arquette, an actor who had not been properly trained, and that was kind of an insult to the industry.
I agree with that. I agree with that big time. Ocean Spit, little show about big things, folks. It's wrestling today. Whether you like it or not, it's wrestling today. And my buddy Trevor Blatcher talking about some good stuff. If you into wrestling, you have to remember the great Four Horsemen. Ric Flair. I just don't know. There's Mickey Mantle, and there's Muhammad Ali, and then there's the Nature Boy Ric Flair. I never got to meet the Flair Boy, but I'm telling you, man, wow, what he did for wrestling alone, you just can't beat him. What's your take on Ric Flair?
So I've met Rick several times, shared drinks with him in Peoria, Illinois, at
Big Al. Big Al.
Yes, at the strip club.
Yes.
After some shows out there.
Big Al's. The strip joint, folks, if you're not knowing what Big Al's was. Yeah.
I actually had talked to J.J. Dillon and interviewed him for a show that I used to do with Nick H. and Richard T. Sin and Billy Wack that was on public access, and it was in Vegas and at a convention, and I'll plug that a little bit later. But I had told him that you and Rick and Arn and Tully and Ole were the reasons why I wanted to get into the business, because of how their interviews went, how they portrayed themselves, living the lifestyle, and Rolex watches and alligator shoes and suits and limos and the women and that's what attracted me. And I told JJ, that's the reason. You guys are the reason why. It wasn't Hogan, it wasn't Bockwinkel, it wasn't Heenan. It was the Horsemen and the way they portrayed themselves on TV. Was the reason why I wanted to get in. And last time I saw Rick was at one of the Stevens Convention Center signings or whatever. It was probably back in 2016 or 17. And I remember the girl I was dating, who eventually became my second ex-wife, I
Okay, there you
had
go.
been telling her hey, I'm kind of a big deal, and she's like, no, you're not, no, you're not. So I saw a friend of mine was at there. He was there. He does sports memorabilia and baseball cards and stuff. And I'm like, hey, how much does it cost to come in?
Yeah.
And he's like, I says, I'm down the street. And he was like, oh, just text me when you get there. So he come down and give us passes, and we went upstairs, and he's like, hey, you know who's here? And he whispered. I said I hadn't seen him in like 4 or 5 years. And so there was a line about 300 people deep, and he went behind a curtain. He whistled for us, and he was back there and go back there. And he tapped him on the shoulder, and he had his back. And he was like, hey, you know who this guy is behind you? And he turned around. And he's like, hey, kid, how you doing? And he wound up giving me a big hug. And she's like,
Oh, there you go. See how that works? Yeah, it works.
so
My friend Steve's watching. My buddy Steve from Arizona, another wrestler himself. I like to get Steve. Steve, let's talk and get you on the show too, brother. This is Ocean's Pit, little show about big things, folks. And today we're talking wrestling or wrestling, however you want to call it. It's one of my favorite pastimes to watch. Raw and SmackDown, and like I said, AEW. I love it. I just love it all, man. I love everything about it. And one thing that's really what I miss, I'll tell you a couple names that I miss. Mean Gene Oakland,
no,
you can't beat him. I miss Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heaton when they used to do. I used to
Tuesday
love
Night
that with
Diamond.
the Rosati. Remember the
Oh
Rosati
yeah,
sisters?
there's a
Oh,
couple that come to the POW shows. Mr. Riccolo knows
yeah,
of that.
yeah. Oh my God! And Gorilla would say, "We got the Rosati sisters." And I used to love the way Heenan would destroy the other because it was always when the two announcers, there
Yeah.
was always one for the good guy and
Yep.
one for the bad guy, and that's what I miss
Yeah.
this time. Remember, you don't see
Yep.
that
There's
no
no
more.
banter in between.
Why? Why don't they have one of the guys? You know who does? What's his name? Sometimes, what's his name? Corey.
Corey Graves.
Yeah, sometimes he
Yeah.
kind of rips, but and there's no more Jesse the Body
Yep.
Ventura, which to me, when he was, what are you talking about, Mean
Yep.
Gene? It's like, it's just like it was great seeing those characters, and you just don't see it anymore. And I wonder why that stopped. Is it because of the politically correct?
Probably. Probably. I mean,
I mean, Chico, remember
If
Chico?
you remember, Coronet had mentioned something about if Trevor Murdoch, who at the time was the NWA champion, he had
Yeah,
made a mention about if something about tying chicken KFC to his back and riding a motorcycle in Africa or something, and he got a bunch of. But he said the same thing years ago. But it's like and it was just like recently Ric Flair on AEW had mentioned about girls 18 to 35, no boyfriends, no husbands, top Florida Marriott. Well, he said the same thing back in '88 during the Crockett Cup, and they actually poured more liquor on that night that Flair had everybody come to the bar than they did New Year's
yeah.
Eve.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it. Yeah, Big Pop. Scott Steiner was good. He used to love to talk trash too. You're watching Ocean's Pit, little show about big things, folks. It's wrestling, and like I said, whether you like it or not, I love wrestling, and I still get a lot of people going, "Why do you waste your time with that? Why do you waste your time about?" Listen, I have to watch The Bachelor with my wife. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Well, you're hooked. You're hooked on it, and you just gotta love it. We are almost running out of time, but before that, I got to talk about some other things. But I'm gonna throw some names at you, and just give me 1 to 10, and we're gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
Okay? We're gonna start off with Hulk Hogan. Was he over? I mean, that leg drop wasn't really no big deal.
He mentioned that he probably should have done something else because that's why he's had so many back surgeries from doing a leg
Yeah,
drop. He wish he had done something else.
yeah,
Like maybe
sure.
the claw or whatever. But
Yeah, nasty. Yeah,
as far as his place in history, yeah, he's up there. He's maybe number two, and I'm going to put Flair. And Hogan has said this too. Flair could wrestle 45 minutes to an hour. Hogan couldn't. So as far as wrestling ability, Hogan would put Flair as number one. As far as being able to have that interaction with the fans that Hogan did, undeniably, he had it. He had it. He had it.
Yeah. And of course, talking about Ric Flair. I mean, when they bringing him out now, what I don't understand is why don't they have Flair? Maybe because they want too much. He makes too much money. But why doesn't he have as a manager role to somebody? And you know what? To me, put MJF when he comes to when he comes to the WWE. When he comes to the WWE, MJF, he doesn't need Ric Flair, but imagine him and Flair walking down together. I mean, I love MJF. I don't know what's going on with him. He works wrestles for AEW. I think he's very Jesse meets Ric Flair. I think
he reminds me a little bit, not a little bit, of Roddy Piper, because Roddy, his mindset was to go out and piss everybody off. That was Roddy's mindset, was to piss everybody off.
And he did a great job at it, and people still loved him. Even when he became a babyface, people loved him too, because you never knew what you were going to get from the great Roddy Piper.
He never pulled any punches. Never.
No, you never did. So we talked about Flair again. Okay, we know that. Let's go to Randy Orton. God, what a wrestler! He's still fantastic.
Great second generation wrestler.
You think he was better than his dad?
Yeah.
Cowboy Bob?
Yeah,
Orton?
I actually wrestled Bob. Yeah, I think Randy surpassed him, to be honest with you.
Overrated, in my opinion, Mr. John Cena. Don't get it. I never liked him, don't care for him. What's your opinion on Cena?
I honestly think they should have turned him heel, just like Hogan. Because, but the reason he was pushed was because he was like the number one guy for Make-A-Wish, the number one request for Make-A-Wish. So that's why they never turned him, and that's why he was pushed so much.
What about Randy Macho Man Savage? Never going to be what a
all these guys that we grew up watching. There's never going to be anybody like them, because that was them inside. So a lot of the guys now are given different names, and this is what we want you to do. Try this out and stuff. There's nothing from inside them coming out. There's no personality of themselves coming out, and that's
the only one I see is Cody Rhodes. You can tell that's really him, and he just doesn't have the whatchamacallit, but I think that's all I see is with Cody Rhodes. Especially when he talks. I mean, like I said, I'm not a big fan of his, but he just chokes up all the time because he always talks about his dad. We got two more people to talk about. I'm glad The Rock became a heel. What about when Rock did what he did for the industry? Was he better than Hogan with the industry, in your opinion, wrestling wise?
About the same. He put it on the map, especially with a lot of his catchphrases. He's one of a kind, and that was, again, his personality coming out.
And what about? I don't get it. What's the CM Punk thing? I don't understand it. I mean, he's huge, and now that he came back again, another guy from his heart. He pissed off a lot of people. A lot of people don't like him. Now he's back again. What was your take on Punk?
I understand why he left. He was hurt. Needed to take the time off. I think it was a mistake that he did the MMA stuff. But hey, you know what? If you feel that that's what you need to do, or in your mindset, hey, I want to try this, go. I don't think it hurt. I think it hurt his image to a degree, because so many people were going into it expecting him to kind of not breathe through it, but do better than what he did. Maybe the injuries had something to do with it. I don't know. I think he was off a couple of years before he even started training for that.
Yeah.
But then he came back and went to AEW, and Tony Khan is a millionaire, and he's a wrestling fan. He hasn't been in the business long enough to know how things should go. He's not like Vince McMahon. It's not like he started working with a company and doing interviews and stuff and kind of seeing how everything goes. Okay,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah,
eventually, hey, I want to do this. The Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes went to him. How they're in it, how they're intertwined, I don't exactly know. But you basically, in my opinion, you have guys that have never made the big time, whether it be WCW and or WWF or E. It's a bunch of indie guys that are like throwing this out there. Maybe this will work, and throwing that out there, and maybe that'll work. I do know from talking to one of the producers, and I'm not going to mention his name, but a lot of the young people that are in AEW don't want to take their advice. Now, why wouldn't you sit down with Arn Anderson? Okay, and he's not there anymore. Why would you not sit him down for an hour with coffee and pick his brain? Or Tully.
Yeah. Or Tully.
Billy
I mean,
Gunn.
look at Diamond Dallas Page, what he's done for the
Right.
wrestlers. I mean, there's people. Yeah, I mean, right. What he did for. I mean, I don't get it either. I just don't understand. Oh, two guys we've definitely forgot to mention. Not a big Tito Santana fan, but he did great for wrestling.
I'm really good. I'm really good friends with Tito. I love him to death. Real quick story. We're in Cicero. I asked him something.
Yeah.
He was like, "Brother, get your heat. Why do you think Bobby called me Chico?" So we go to the ring, and I said, "Hey," I said, "I've never seen so many immigrants in my life, and all these people. We're outside in Cicero, and so then." I said, "Hey, it's okay." I says, "I brought everybody a present." And Paul Apperstein, who ran the AWF, if you remember Paul,
All right.
he had a bag, and I reached into the bag, and I start whipping tortillas out at everybody. Oh, like it went even worse, right? Just like Roddy, I'm getting my heat. I'm getting everybody to piss me off because it makes it easier for Tito to do what he has to do. So then Tito gets in, we get in, do a little something, I get knocked down. He goes to the corner, gets the tortillas, and he's shoving them in my mouth. Crowd's going bananas. I roll out. He comes up, puts me in a full Nelson, brings me up on the guardrails, and the kids are starting to put tortillas in my mouth. It was a blast. Love Tito.
Yeah, I love to. And then Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I mean, all the fights that he had. I mean, Ric Flair said it was his best matches he's ever had. Of course,
so I had done some training out in Cincinnati with Harley Race, Les Thatcher, and Steamboat. It was called Elite Training or something like that, and was interviewing Steamer, and I said, if Vince McMahon called you and asked you to come on board as a agent, would you do it? He was like, I'd have to go back out, and I'd have to really seriously consider it. Well, like 3-4 months later, they're in Indiana, and I go to the show, and Steamboat's there. And I'm like, Rick. And he saw me up in the stands, and he was like, come here. He was like, are you freaking psychic? I'm like, no. I said, I just asked a question. I said, but it's great to have you. Great to have you here. And, he lasted about a year and a half or whatever. And then he had an aneurysm or something, so he couldn't fly.
Right, and brought it to a halt. You're watching Ocean's Pit, Little Show About Things. We got a minute left before that. Trevor, what do you got going on? What are you doing?
So I haven't really been wrestling. I got hurt at work. I tore my biceps tendon. I had to have surgery.
So all the years at wrestling, you never got hurt, but you got hurt at work.
With a heavy bag. No more heavy bags, people. Anyways. So,
there you go.
But I actually will be in town on the 20th. There is an event at T-Wood Bar and Grill, POW Entertainment. Their current champion, Kazile, my son, and will be defending his heavyweight title there. And then in August, let me pull this up a little bit so that you can see it. Cauliflower Alley Club. Go to Cauliflower Alley Club wrestlingwithjeff.org. It's a nonprofit organization that assists wrestlers, referees, managers that fall on hard times. We helped out Kamala when he had his legs amputated, and he was sent money to have a ramp put in so that he can get in and out of his house. That is in August. Sting is actually getting the top award there. And again, if you go to Cauliflower Alley Club on Facebook or cac.org, you'll find out all the information. You can either be a $25 for a year or $400. You can be a lifetime member, just like me.
There you go. Well, Trevor, thanks for the stories, buddy. And it's so nice that your kids are following up on what you're trying
Brian
to
Allen's
do.
Brian Allen's the top referee there. And he really needs to be signed. I'm hoping that both of them get signed.
I wish the best success for you and everybody else, and guys out there, guys and gals out there. It's something that if you want to get into something, look at wrestling. It's not an easy thing to get into. It's not easy to become a name out there, but you could go out there and enjoy doing it. And there's a lot of guys out there that we need to give kudos to people out there that's been doing it in the business for many, many years. And, they're not a household name, and you don't see them too much on television. You don't see this, you don't see that, but they're trying. They're going to the schools. They're going out there. They're playing. They're going into these little restaurants or little clubs or wherever the hell they're doing this thing. VFW halls to make a name of themselves that hopefully one day they can get on that main
and one quick thing, if anybody is out there that wants to train, get in contact with Jim Blaze on Facebook or POW Entertainment, POWW Entertainment on Facebook, and send Jimmy a message. We have a training school that we share with CSW, Steve Boz. We share the same, we're just there on different days. So Tony, thank you very much for allowing me the honor and privilege to be on your show for the first time. I'd love to be back. I love talking about the business. And, I'm going to throw out the offer that if you want to come to the show on the 20th, let me know.
You got it, Trevor. Trevor Blanchard, folks, follow him if they want to follow you. How do they follow you?
I'm just on Facebook, just under Trevor Blanchard. Okay. I'm actually eating a rainbow cone. Is my photo.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Guys, now remember one thing, very, very important. I want to thank you all for watching the show today. And we're going to remember tomorrow is Twisted Tuesday with Carol Brandolino. We'll touch on some of the stuff I didn't get to touch on today. Don't forget, Wednesday we'll be at Bugsy's in McHenry with Mojo's Jukebox. Thursday we'll be at Tavern on the Point in Edison Park with Jerry Jams. Friday, Chicago Prime Steakhouse. Saturday is a private event at the Hyatt Hotel in Rosemont. Guys, ChicagoMusicCruise.com. Join us. It's going to be great on 2025. We'll give you more information on that. Trevor, let's just thank our sponsor, folks. Of course, the great Ace Hardware. Ace is the place. Buy local, shop local. Download the Ace Rewards app. Easy way to keep track of your points, coupons, and special offers, folks. Ace is the place, helping neighbors before they were neighborhoods. Our good friends from Ace Hardware. All right, guys, we got to go. Have an incredible day. Please enjoy. Remember, support local establishments, support live entertainment. The great words of Ringo Starr, peace and love. We need it more than ever, buddy. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget, with Thursday, my co-host, my lovely wife, Laura Ocean. Ocean's Pit, little show about big things. Nick Sahajas, the piano man. Take us out. Have a great day, everybody. God.
It's the end of the show. See you later from Tony.
Thanks, man.